Joining us now for our final show of the year, the great geologist and friend of this show, Professor Ian Plimer. Ian, Merry Christmas. Great to see you. Now, you had some news which I found was fascinating about who got the #1 spot in Mining Journal's sustainable kind of new approaches to mining. Tell us about it.
Well, Mining Journal is the principal journal of the industry in the whole world. And there were people on the list there, the president of China, the president of Indonesia, various company CEOs. But the person who won by a country mile was Gina Rinehart. Now, she doesn't get enough credit in this country, but certainly the world recognises that she is the greatest Australian woman this country has ever produced. And so I'm absolutely tickled pink that she's getting recognition for pulling the Hancock Group out of serious financial troubles in the early 90s. She did it herself. She didn't inherit anything. She's built a huge private company, the biggest private company in Australia, and she should be honoured for employing so many people and for paying such a huge amount of tax. And the amount of tax she pays funds some 31,000 police or 38,000 teachers or 42,000 nurses. Now, that is a great achievement. And I challenge any critic of Gina Rinehart to tell me how much tax they pay and what they do for this country.
Ian, now tell us about your take on COP28. There's so much to go through. Bowen giving us a welcome to country. We've got a call for nuclear energy. We've got the Sheikh Jabour saying we've got to have more oil. Tell us your take on COP28, Ian.
Well, Flop 28 was no different from the others. If we really had a climate crisis and wanted to have net zero by 2050, we would have solved the problem in 2 or 3 meetings. This is a giant jaunt and a party. And we sent some 48 people from this country over there. In Kevin Rudd's time, we sent something like 117 or 120 to Copenhagen. This is a giant party, but you have these people getting up giving boring speeches. But fortunately, we have Chris Bowen, the Australian minister. Now, we all know he's had a very successful charisma bypass operation. This is why people went to his talk, to hear this clown, because in boring conferences, you have to have a bit of comic relief. And here he was, saying Australia's going to go all in the death spiral of renewable energy, yet other countries were saying they're going to triple their nuclear. The Gulf states are saying, oh, we're going to transition, we're going to use more gas. China's saying, oh, we're going to transition and use more coal. And Saudi's saying, well, we're going to transition too, and we're going to use more oil. And this is not a conference about climate. It's a conference about energy. We have a crisis of energy, and the world has realised it. And as soon as the Germans got back home, what happened? They slashed 45 billion off the climate budget and put it into defence. They put it where it was useful. The Germans have realised they can't run their country on sea breezes and sunbeams. They've realised they need nuclear, they need coal, they need gas. So we're going the exact opposite direction. So people went to Bowen's talk just to have a great laugh.
Well, James. I never, Ian, and by the way, Merry Christmas to you, never would have expected that Chris Bowen would be doing great comedy stylings. Maybe we could put the wisdom on of Chris Bowen on by the tree after opening the presents for a bit of a laugh. But I want to ask a serious question, though. When that COP28 or Flop 28, as you so aptly put it, was wrapping up, here in New South Wales, we were being told on a reasonably warm day, don't turn on your air conditioner, don't run the clothes dryer, don't run your dishwasher, for God's sake. You can still charge your electric car. This seems to underscore the real problem we have in this country, that on the one hand, you've got the Bowens of the world saying fossil fuels are over. On the other hand, you've got Jim Chalmers saying we need these things to keep our budget in the black. And you've got this huge regulatory apparatus, which Gina Rinehart and others have spoken about, which makes it very difficult to get energy out of the ground. You've had a lot of experience with this. How is it that the government can be, saying that they need this for the budget, but then trying to keep it in the ground? It seems like the height of hypocrisy to me, Ian Plimer.
Well, yes, they speak with a forked tongue and they continue to go down the path which they know is economically disastrous. So not only do we have New South Wales telling people on a very mild day that you've got to stop using energy, We have Victoria doing deals with Aboriginal corporations to put in more wind turbines across the country. They did a deal with a Sydney Indigenous security company, and 801 lives later, we saw the result. So they're doing exactly the same thing in Victoria. Queensland's doing the same with energy. We have an energy crisis in Australia. We also have a crisis of common sense, and we also have a crisis of good leadership. So this is just continuing the story. And I think ultimately we have to have a change of government and someone coming in like Alexander the Great with a sword, just cutting the knot.
Liz.
Ian, what do you put this government's reluctance to do anything about nuclear? Like, what do you put it down to? Obviously, they say, oh, it's because it's too expensive, the upfront costs, it's pie in the sky. I think Bowen once described it as, you know, a pipe dream wrapped in a unicorn, etc., and so on. We know the excuses that they give us for maintaining the moratorium, etc., and so on. We know them to be untrue. Is this just about padding the pockets of their renewables mates, honouring the deals that have been done behind closed doors? Or do you see this as a much larger agenda at play?
Well, there's a number of agendas here. The left likes to frighten people. That's their mechanism of gaining power. And you can't see radiation, nor can you see carbon dioxide, nor can you see viruses and bacteria. So these are wonderful mechanisms of frightening the people and controlling the people. We've had nuclear power in this country for more than 60 years. Yes, it's a small amount we generate. And if anyone has ever had cancer and you're anti-nuclear, you are a hypocrite, because we generate medical isotopes at Lucas Heights in Sydney. We're now onto our second large reactor there. That produces 20 megawatts of power. We have the skills, we have the people. We're already a nuclear nation. So what we're hearing is absolute codswallop. Now, you hit on a very important point. One of the big investors in the renewables industry, or I call it the ruinables industry, are the super funds run by the unions. Now, the Labor Party is not a political party. It's actually the wing of the unions. It's the political wing of the unions, and they're just looking after their mates, as Labor has always done. So their reasons for objecting to nuclear are financial. Many, many countries in the world have nuclear and are very, very successful in producing cheap, reliable power. Even countries with a number of Greens and socialist countries have nuclear. So Labor is in it, not for political reasons, but purely to look after their mates in the unions. And that, to me, is an absolute disgrace.
Professor Ian Plimer, fantastic analysis there. Great insights, as you've given us all year. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. And have a very Merry Christmas to your family and to yourself. And we will see you next year.
And the same to all of you.
Thank you, Professor Ian Plimer.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, mate.